Embedding YouTube videos on your site can wreck your page performance if you're not doing it the right way. You can save around 3 megabytes on your page load with just one technique. YouTube embeds load all kinds of JavaScript and other stuff, even if the user doesn't end up clicking on the video. So today we're going to reduce your page load, speed up your performance, and make it so that we don't load anything if the component never makes it to the screen. We're even going to make it look better than the default embed so you can keep it on brand. We'll keep it accessible, give editors the option for a thumbnail override, and even a caption underneath. We'll build this into our CMS so that the embeds are dynamic and easy for content editors to change and add to a page without killing performance. And so I'm going to show you how to get this set up with Next.js and Prismic. We're going to use Prismic Slice Machine to create the data model and quickly build our component. We'll also use Tailwind for styling our component. All right, let's get into it. I am building out a kind of a clone site of this Ableton page. And so I've got a nice little Prismic repository called Fableton, as it's my fake Ableton site. And I can see here, they have this awesome little video component. I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit better. And we have an image, we have the little, like an SVG, and they also have the caption down underneath. When you click it, it brings up a YouTube video. And you can see that the thumbnail is different from what we had there. So there's a few things going on there, right? We have this caption down here, and we have a YouTube video that gets loaded after the click. And we have obviously that option for a different image there. So those are some of the things that we're going to be working into our own component. And yeah, now that we kind of see what we've got, let's actually build out the slice that our editors will be able to use to add an image anywhere on the page. Just like the editors for this page added it between these two like text slices, right? So text slice here, video there, and more text, and they can have as many slices as they want, and they can move, they can add another video, right? So we're gonna build that in. I already have my project up and running. I'll bring it over here in VS Code. Like I said, this is just kind of the starter. Haven't done much to it. And right now, Slice Machine and the Next.js dev server are both running. And so we've got it here, and I'm gonna go ahead and create a new slice. And I'm just gonna call it YouTube embed. And it's gonna go in my default library. I'm gonna hit create slice. There we go. It starts off with a couple of default fields, and we can edit them as we wish. So I know we need a few things here, right? So I'm thinking about the actual YouTube video that we need. That's a crucial part here. I'm gonna have a field for a YouTube ID. And that one's kind of mandatory. And so this slice isn't going to render if that's not there. I also need the option for a fallback image. I'm also going to have a caption, and I need some, I want to provide a title for my editors. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this. I want that to be a key text. We're going to wipe it out, add a new field. We're going to start with key text, which is just a string, very different from rich text. So this is my YouTube ID. And I'm going to do that, and it gives me a nice little label automatically generated. I'm going to go in and change this. Let's say YouTube video ID. But I can keep the ID over here kind of the same. And placeholder, I'm just going to give them a hint of, you know, what a YouTube video ID looks like. And we can go ahead and hit save. The other thing I want is a video title. This is also going to be a key text, and I'll show you in the code why. Let's just go with title. Or yeah, that's fine. That works. I also want an image. So image here, and we're going to call this fallback thumbnail. Rather, thumbnail override. Because it's not going to be a fallback, it's going to be the one that takes the place of the default YouTube thumbnail. So we're going to say thumbnail override and hit add. And then we also want a caption. So add new field. This one, I'm going to go with rich text to give my editors a little bit of freedom. I don't want too much freedom, and I'll show you what I kind of rein in. But for rich text, I'm going to say caption, and I'm going to come in here, unselect all. So this is the part where you're able to, just say what the editors can use in this rich text field. So I want a paragraph, I want some italics, link, and I think bold and right to left. I want, of course, to enable that. That's very useful. The rest, I'm going to say no. I don't want images in there. So that's good. I'm not going to allow multiple paragraphs. This looks really, really good. So I'm going to hit save. And just like that, I have all 4 of my fields built out. And I'm going to hit save model to file system. And what that's going to do is that's going to actually create the slice. And we're going to go over to our Fableton package. You see it's working there. And slices, I'm going to go in and see, YouTube embed. Here it is. And we have some template. It's some default code that's been created for us with the old description and title that it starts with. So now it's our job to come in here and build it out the way that we want. So we're going to do just that. And we get these handy code snippets that show us the path to our data. It's also right there in case you need it, but very handy that if you're not sure how to use Prismic Rich Text, it's right there to help you out. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. As well as your image. With our image, we get a URL and some alt text. For this, because the thumbnail is decorative, right? We're not going to use that alt text, but we're going to hopefully default to the title or something else. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and start pulling this data in. All of it is on slice.primary. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe out this entire section, even this little style bit here. And yeah, so now we have slice. I'm going to turn this in. I'm going to remove the implicit return and say return. And I'm going to go ahead and say const. Let's see what we have. YouTube ID. I'm going to pull all of these off to structure them off of slice.primary. YouTube ID equals slice.primary. And I also want title, thumbnail override, and caption. So title, thumbnail override, and caption. Cool. So now I want to kind of leave this for now. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to say testing. I just don't want that section to self-close when I save. So that's there, and we can actually preview it, and we should be able to see. It's not going to do anything great, but it should just say testing. There we go. So what we just did was we opened Slice Simulator, and this is going to be the place where we build this component out. But what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to create a component that we're going to import into this slice. I think that's kind of a best practice here because the YouTube lazy load component that we're going to build can be pulled into other slices maybe, right? Maybe you have a rich text slice or something else where you want to have this YouTube lazy load component. So we're going to create a new component here. I'm going to call it YouTube lazy load.js. All right, and I have a little snippet library in my VS Code, and I just type RFC, and it creates a React functional component. Just a nice little quick thing, but if you don't have anything like that, it's just a standard React functional component that I'm making here. And yeah, I'm just gonna hit save there, and we can import this into our slice so that as we make changes, we can see it in Slice Simulator. So instead of testing, I'm going to say import, we called it YouTube lazy load. There we go. And I'm going to just pop it there. And we should see YouTube lazy load just like we have here. It worked. Perfect. It worked. So make it a little bigger for you. Nice. So we have just a basic component setup. We made a component. We're on our way. But we want to say the props that we are kind of expecting here, right? So we want, let's actually go back to slice machine here. Everything got big. YouTube ID, title, thumbnail override, and caption. So YouTube ID, title, thumbnail override, and caption. And I'm also going to do class name so that we can override any styles potentially. Maybe we'll remove that. For now, we'll leave it. I'm going to hit save, and we now want to check out exactly what we're passing through. So let's go ahead and do YouTube ID equals YouTube ID. Thought it was going to help me out a little bit. Let's do this. This is the part that's not too glamorous here, but that's okay. Thumbnail override, and last but not least, caption. I'll leave class name off for now because we don't want to add any extra styles in, but maybe this slice needs to style it a little bit differently, so we handle that. Who knows? But for now, we are passing that data through, and the only thing we really need right now is a valid YouTube ID. So we can kind of like start to see the, the fruits of our labor. So I've got one right here. I'm going to put it here as a default result for that. And now we're going to want to set up a little bit of state. So the way this is going to work, the way that we're going to make this work, it's going to be a little bit of set state, React state, so that when you click on this, it changes the state and it loads a different component, right? So we can do the basics here. So we're going to import, let's go ahead and import. We don't need to do that React import anymore in Next.js, so we're just going to get rid of it. And we're going to do use state. And then in here, before this return, we're going to say const show video use or set show video equals use state. And then we're going to pass it a default of false, just because we don't want the video to show just yet, right? And so now in here, we can start to set this up where we go show video question mark. So we're going to do a ternary operator, and we're going to show if we are showing the video, we want to show the iframe that contains that video. If not, we want to show the image either from YouTube or of our thumbnail override. All right. First, we're going to just build out the simple video or not video. So let's go div video. And I'm going to copy this, save us a little bit of time, add the colon for the second result of the ternary. So if it's false, then no video for you. So let's see what we get. Going to slice machine, no video for you because it is false. If we set this to true, video, cool. So we don't yet have a way to swap those. So let's make that happen, all right? So instead of a div, maybe we want to make this into a button. And we want that button to be type button. And on click, we can make it so that we can pass it an arrow function. We can also do like a click handler. We're just going to do it this way. And we say on click, set show video true, right? We can do that. No video for you. Oh, there we go. No video for you. I click video. So we just changed the state there. Kind of simple. We're going to dig a little bit more into it as we start to build this real component out. I'm actually going to change this to a tablet view. Slice Simulator is great because it lets you quickly preview your slice in different screen dimensions. And this is just easier for us to kind of keep an eye on. So we've got it saying video here. I'm actually going to pull in the iframe that we're going to use for the video part. So if I pop that in there and save just to format it, we are going to take a look at this now. We have a width here and a height. Those are just kind of standard coming from YouTube. If you copy an embed off of like a YouTube video, like hit share and go to copy that embed, that's usually the size that comes off of that. We'll talk about the class names in just a second because that's us actually styling it. The source here, we're using a special little YouTube URL. This is still official YouTube, but it's nice that it doesn't track our users in the same way. At least we think so. And we just pass the YouTube ID here at the end. And frame border, these are just some styling things. This comes standard on the embed. This allows full screens, and we have a default title. We'll get a better one in here soon. And then we are setting the aspect ratio to 16:9 and removing the padding because the way that the default iframe here works is mainly through padding hacks, but we can use these aspect ratio tools in CSS now. So we're going for it. And then it's just going to take up the full height and width of whatever container we put it in. And so, yeah, there's that. And then I think we just need to, a slightly different ID there. Because we're using Slice Simulator, we get this mock data, and I'll output it right here. So YouTube ID isn't going to be this because when you do this in JavaScript, this says if there's nothing there, fall back to this value, but there is something there because we are getting a prop from Slice Machine, or we're getting mocks from Slice Machine. So revolutionize user-centric eyeballs. Slice Machine provides you with these mocks, and it's really handy because I don't want to delete. You then get to build much quicker without having to go into your CMS and add images and all this other stuff. You'll see how handy this is when we work on the thumbnail. So for the mock config, we are going to go ahead and copy that value, put it here and hit save, and then hit save model to file system. And I can get rid of this. So that was only really using that for the, for kind of the fallback. And now you see we are getting that value through. So I'm just going to say show video there. And once I click that, there it is. So we are hiding the video behind this button. And as soon as we hit that button, we're showing the video. But show video as a button is not great. We're going to now add the thumbnail back in, add the little play button back in, but still benefit from not loading all the JavaScript that comes with this YouTube embed until the viewer actually wants to watch it, right? So let's get to that. We have a special URL from YouTube where we can actually see the thumbnail that they have and use it however we want. So I'm going to go ahead and import that next image from next image, and we are going to put an image right there. Let's take a look at this real quick. Instead of image override, I want to say thumbnail override dot URL, I believe. So we have next image, and next image wants a source. It wants to know what image to display, right? We're not going to do an alt because this image is just decorative. We don't want it to tell screen readers anything. And for the source, we are allowing the editor to overwrite this default thumbnail that YouTube's giving us, so that if they want to show something specific for this page or just something that they like better, they can do that. If this doesn't exist, it's going to fall back to whatever YouTube has. And this layout needs to be on any next image component so that, and I think it's showing us, yes. So you need to tell it what kind of, well, actually, no, it does not need to be on there because it is optional. It's saying right there. But this basically just tells next image how it's going to behave stylistically. And then we have a couple classes on here. We have height and width 100%. And we're even adding this loading lazy here so that if it's not in the screen just yet, we're not going to load it. So only when the user starts to scroll it into view are we going to load this image. And that's what's going to save us like even more than not loading the YouTube embed in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and we should, crossing fingers, making sure, actually let's make sure that this, nope. There we go. Caught it. That should work now. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to hit refresh, and we are seeing the mock. Okay, so, and we're getting a little bit of a funky stretching thing here. Interesting. But we are seeing the mock image that's coming in from Slice Machine. We didn't have to go and upload our own image to get this thumbnail override. We didn't have to choose it. We can go and put our own image in there, just like I did for the YouTube ID. But for now, I don't want to. I want to move a little bit faster. I like that just fine. And I can even go ahead and remove this to make sure that this is working well. Let's check that out. And there it is. Clearly our styles are not working well, but that is the thumbnail coming from the site or coming from YouTube. And if I go ahead and click, you'll see that the real video loads in. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I need to add some styles onto that button. So let's get that done. I'm going to go ahead and give this button an aspect ratio and give it a full width. So the same way that this has aspect ratio and full width, I want to do the same to the button. So class name, aspect, and width full. We also need to add relative and make position relative so that the image stays inside image's position absolute. And when we click in, works perfect. Awesome. So that's looking great. And yeah, now all we need to do is add, well, not all, but one more thing we need to do is add that SVG on top so that it looks like a play button, right? So let's go ahead. I've got Iconify open. If you're not familiar with Iconify, icon-sets.iconify.design, you can find basically any icon you want across pretty much all of the major icon, what are they called? Icon libraries. So I search for play, I click through a couple of them, and I think this one is going to be the one that we go with. You can pretty much grab any of these, whichever kind of fit your brand best. Maybe even go with this one, right? So this one is going to be from where? Carbon. So the Carbon icons from IBM. So if I go for SVG, go ahead and just copy the actual SVG. They also have React code. That's really handy. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the SVG, and just like that, we are set. So wait, and we want a view box rectangle maybe? Nah, we're good. All right, so now we're going to come back to our project. I'm going to make a div to put the SVG inside, and I'll show you why. So first I'm going to do grid because I want to make, I'm going to use CSS grid. And now I'm going to paste that SVG and just see real quick if there's anything that needs to be fixed. You can't always just paste SVGs into React because the JSX and differences there, but this seems to be good. I'm going to go ahead and save. The SVG is currently set to current color. So any color that we put on any of the parents, it's going to inherit that. And so, yeah, we just need to bring these styles over. So position relative and place item center. So relative and place items center. So that should work well. And then we also want to do, let's say text white. Let's try that and see if we can get this SVG a bit bigger. Last one is text LG. Text, let's go XL. That should make it a little bit bigger. And our styles aren't updating, so let's refresh and make sure that worked. There we go. I'm not seeing any change in the size. We can do that manually if we need to, or I can go ahead and just add some styles to our SVG myself. So if I come in here, I'm gonna paste some styles. So we have a height of 2 fits. That's gonna be what exactly? 40%. And then we have 50% for the width. And now we are just letting, we're adding a transform here, right? I mean, the name is transform, but we're adding a transform just to let Tailwind know, hey, you need to add this style in and listen for any other things that we say. And the transform that we're going to apply is on hover, and it's going to be scale 105. And notice that it's a group hover. That part's important because we want to make it so that when we hover over the entire button here, because this whole thing is a button, we want this to respond. I'll cover this again in a sec. I'm just going to put this group here, group, and that should make it so that when we hover over any part of the button, this individual play button will scale 105%, right? So just a little bit more. And this transition will give it a little bit of an ease, kind of a basic timing function, and 150 milliseconds of a duration. We can change those things, but for right now, we're kind of happy with that. So let's go ahead and check this out. We have a much bigger play button, and let's see if we hover this button. Yeah, we get a little bit of a change, right? And once again, we're not hovering the SVG. The SVG is just there, but because we added that group property, let's see if we can inspect the, oh wait, is that the div? No, we're inspecting the button here. Cool. So the button has the group property on it, and when the SVG is hovered, we see this dot group hover, right? So it now knows that anytime the group gets hovered, it's going to change. Nice handy little thing. A little bit funky in Tailwind, but it works. We got it to work. So we can even drop the opacity and add a little bit of style to that. Text white, let's go opacity, maybe like 90, just so it's a little bit see-through. And that's pretty good. Nice. So we have that part set. You can change the duration, make it, have some kind of other animation, but it's nice because it kind of shows that like the play button is not locked into the background image, right? So we've got that added. Now let's bring in our caption. Remember, we added this caption bit. I want to go ahead and just grab this handy little snippet that Slice Machine gives us. Prismic rich text field, and it links right there. And YouTube lazy load. Yeah, we are in the right spot. We want this below both the button and the iframe. So we have this div here. I'm going to keep it as a div because, like I said, we don't know where this might be used. So we're going to let this kind of be used all over the site. But back here, we do want to keep that within a section, right? So slices are like page sections. This is going to be an actual section semantically. But at the bottom of our div, we want to have this Prismic rich text, and we want to bring in the caption. Remember, we are already pulling caption off of the slice and passing it through. So we don't want to do slice.primary.caption. We're just going to bring that down to caption. And we can check to make sure caption exists. Caption, and go ahead, do that. Now it's yelling at me because Prismic rich text doesn't exist here. We haven't imported it. I'm going to cut it from our slice and paste it in here. Save both files, and we should, a little space there, we should be looking a little bit better. I'm going to reorganize a little bit of my imports, and let's see. There it is. So once again, a mock caption. I didn't have to go and add that, but I could change that. I could go into Slice Machine and change what the mock caption value is. You can see that it's just nice to have that mock data there, and test the whole thing. Our caption stays. Caption didn't change at all because it's not tied to that show video state anyway. We can pass the class name onto the div if we would like. I don't really mind one way or another, but I do want to use this title. I'm going to go here and say title, or it's going to do a fallback of YouTube video. Yeah, it's fine. So if there's a title, we're just going to add it to the iframe. A little bit of nice semantics there. And then for this button, we are looking at the code here and we don't see anything that a screen reader is going to pick up on, right? If a screen reader comes across this button, there's no text in here to tell the screen reader, what does this do? What's going on with this button, right? We see it's a type button. We get nothing else. We need to add a little bit there. So we can add an ARIA label. And I think, label. Always get it mixed up with React. Is it the camel case? Oh, let's see. It might be yelling at me to say. Oh, yeah, okay. It's just telling me because it's empty. ARIA label, I can do this and say play video. And maybe I put the title in there. So if it's like Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca, it'll be say play video Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca. It's probably what people are going to use for this component, I'm assuming. Play video and just leave that title there. Should work. So for that ARIA label, that is going to make it so that we at least get some semantics. This is now a bit more accessible than it would be without it. So if we head back, we can see, I'm not going to turn a screen reader on for this video, but you definitely should for your whole site, just to test it out, see how it's working and see what it sounds like. But for this button, we have an ARIA label, play video, enhanced 24/7, 365 platforms. Once again, some mock data, but we can see that it got passed through and it's working. So when our editors add that content to Prismic, it's going to get passed through just fine. We can kind of confirm that, yep, my data flow is a-okay. So yeah, we have pretty much everything that I wanted to show, I think. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is that you might notice that we have this kind of play button and then we have to click the play button again. If you want it so that you just click it once and then the video starts playing, we have a nice little option here. So if you would like that, at the end of this YouTube URL, you can add question mark and autoplay equals 1 or true, right? So for that, we can head on back and I'm going to mute it so that that doesn't play. I don't have to hear myself. So we have our little button here. I'm going to click and just like that, it starts playing. So that person looks familiar. So that works nicely. If that's what you want, go for it. Just know on mobile, it's still going to require a second click. Just mobile rules, right? Just the way that certain mobile browsers work. But this is a nice way to kind of still get the benefit of that one-click experience. But now your page load is so much faster than it would have been with YouTube's regular embed. So let's go ahead and save this, push this slice up to Prismic, and let's see what it looks like if you actually use it in action. So this is saved. This is all good here. Nothing I really need to do there. And I'm going to save model to file system. It's going to say that it can't generate the preview. That's fine for now. I'm going to push this slice to Prismic. And now I'm going to go over to my custom type, my page, and I'm going to make sure I add this slice to this page. I'm going to add that slice to the page so that it's available on that custom type. And I'm going to push that up to Prismic. And now I'm going to hit refresh over here in my page type and hero quote text. There it is right there, YouTube embed. And I can go ahead and try this out and see it show up on my homepage for this site. So I'm going to grab that same YouTube video ID. It's pretty close, right? Got the nonsense gibberish and then same thing. Title is going to be Next.js and slice machine. Thumbnail override. I'm going to go ahead and bring in groovy.png just to kind of see it work. Alt text, I'm going to leave that off because once again, we're not using alt text for the thumbnails. We have the alt text kind of coming in from the title. And caption, this is informative. And I'm gonna hit save and publish. And now if I go localhost 3000, it should be pulled in right here. Now remember, this isn't being like bounded by anything. This is taking up the full width of my page because my slice is just rendering and letting it do whatever it wants to. There's my little caption at the bottom. I could have styled that. I chose not to today. But you see that we are just loading that in, and we are not loading any kind of additional YouTube scripts yet, unless the user wants to play it, and then it'll start to play just like that. I'm gonna pause it again. There we go. And so if we go over to our slice, last thing we can do is pull in a great little helper component that this starter ships with, and it's just called bounded. And so all that does is kind of block it off so that it has a max width and that all our components have that same kind of max width. It's really handy. So I am going to import bounded into this. So I'm going to say bounded, see if our auto imports work. They do. Say as, and I'm going to say section so that it imports, or that it renders as a section. I'm going to fix that, and that should work. Removing this import because we don't need it. And I think this should make it so that, yeah, see how it is now bounded into our, it's aligned with the navigation. And so we have this, and we can click and we save a whole lot of space. So I'm gonna just open as a guest real quick to kind of see the difference between what we're loading here and what we could potentially be loading. So I'm gonna open our network tab, and remember, this is a development server, so it's not gonna be a one-to-one, but the actual YouTube embed, that's gonna stay the same no matter what. So right now we're seeing here at the bottom, have about 5.8 megabytes. Once again, that'd be a lot smaller if we were using, or if we're looking at that production site. But now once we click this, we're gonna load in that YouTube. Whoa, and that's already louder than I want it to be. But look how that shot up, right? We just saved a whole lot of space that the user might not have even used. The user might not even play this video. So this is an absolute game changer. If you are building sites with YouTube embeds, please use something like this because it is clear as day how much you're gonna save here. Well, that's it for this week. I'll add a link to the component that we built down in the show notes, so check that out. You can use the component in any of your projects. I've got it in a few of my own sites myself. You can apply the same principles we covered for Vimeo, Twitch, or any other kind of embed. You can even take it further by wrapping the entire component in an intersection observer so the image only loads when the user scrolls near it. There's another way you could do this that just uses an iframe, and I'll link to the CSS tricks article in the description below. It's pretty cool. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Take care. Hey, Alex here. If you enjoyed that video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you have a question, we're here for you in the comment section below. We're putting out videos regularly, and we premiere them with a live Q&A in the chat. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.